Thank you so much for being with us on this Friday, August 29th. I'm meteorologist Ashley Ruiz. Welcome to Weather Out West. If you haven't joined us before, this is an hour-long show where we showcase the latest on what's expected weather-wise across the western United States. You're going to find forecasts from our meteorologists in Colorado, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, California, and Arizona. But today we're going to start in Denver, Colorado, where cooler temperatures and storms are in the forecast. Kathy Sabin tells us if the storms are in the forecast on Labor Day.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team meteorologist Kathy Sabin, and we're still in the middle of this unusual cloudy, cool, rainy weather pattern in late August. We've been waiting on the monsoon moisture to come into Colorado for about a month. It's late, but it is here. It's also brought some wonderful cloud formations with sunbeams, God rays, and even those brief heavy downpours, which are really cool to photograph. This is all part of a weather pattern shift where high pressure, the flow around it clockwise, is allowing that tropical moisture to feed up into western Colorado and eventually along the I-25 corridor. Now, steering winds aloft are pretty weak. These storms are moving slowly, but they're bringing some beneficial rain to parts of our state dealing with an extreme drought. And extreme and severe drought, not uncommon across much of the west, southwest, and the northern Rockies. So this water is great. We're just hopeful that we're not going to see too much of a good thing on saturated soils. So we're dealing with flash flood warnings each day and watching the burn scar areas very closely. We will have today and tomorrow with this pattern of cooler than average temperatures and the chance for heavy rain, and then the pattern changes for the second half of the long holiday weekend, which bodes well for outdoor activities on Labor Day, as this moisture plume is forecast to shift east from the northern plain states down into Oklahoma, Texas, and the Gulf Coast region. Maybe showers and storms strong enough today and tomorrow, and then heading into the weekend to impact travel out of our airport and into the central plains. So today we'll be tracking the potential for storms with wind and hail, basically south and east late in the day. There'll be a push of moisture coming up into the fire zones early in the day. Showers and storms crossing the I-25 corridor between 2 and 5. And then we're going to do this all over again for one more day. Temperatures will trend below average in the upper 70s today, and we'll see that same forecast for Saturday. A warming and drying trend on Sunday, and for the holiday Monday, sunshine with low to mid 80s that'll carry us into the beginning of next week.
I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team's Katie LaSalle. Unofficial end of summer, Labor Day. Happy Friday, everyone. I want to take a look at what we typically see this time of the year here in Denver. We have seen extremes over the years, though, for our Labor Day holiday, from high heat to snow. So the record high in Denver was set back in 2019, 100 degrees. But we also saw snow around this time. This was back in 1961. Officially, it was the day before Labor Day on September 3rd, but we saw 4.2 inches officially, so snow was on the ground. But the warmest that we've ever seen was that 100-degree reading back in 2019. The coldest temperature, we dropped down to 40 degrees back in 1973, last recorded. We saw around a half of an inch back in 1997. Typically, we're talking average first snow, not in Denver until October, but with that early snow, we still have some very inclement weather that we've seen early into the first part of this upcoming month. Typically on September 1st, our average high here in town is 85 degrees. The record was 99 set back in 2023. And our Labor Day outlook, as we look ahead for this year, 2025. Today, it's going to be a chance for storms, below average temperatures, similar story on Saturday. But as we get into the second half of this weekend, 80 degrees and sunshine will be low to mid 80s. So just around normal for this Labor Day holiday. If you're out and about, enjoy it. Be prepared for some wet weather today, but that warmer, drier weather pattern settling in, keeping us quite seasonal for this year.
Now let's head on over to Phoenix, Arizona, where Ginger Jeffries has the details on the holiday weekend warm-up.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries. A look at your weather out west across Arizona, where we have seen a lot of rain and we're seeing some more pocketed showers this morning. It is going to clear out nicely and temperatures are going to start responding. So I think numbers will begin to warm up, especially on the western side of the state, where yesterday this is where the rain focus was. Today it's shifting back to the east and into the higher elevations. So take a look across Arizona. In Flagstaff today, we've got partly cloudy skies, temperatures at about 76 degrees. Sedona, you're going to see some pockets of rain. This is going to be intermittent. I wish I could give it a 3-hour time span, but we've got some showers in the morning and we've got another round a little bit later. Show Low, Payson, much of the same. Higher elevations, we'll see some spotty shower activity, but again, temperature wise, hey, not bad, right? 81 today in Show Low. We've got double digits in Tucson with some spotty showers, 97. Gila Bend about 104, and overhead here in Phoenix, we are going for highs of 104 degrees. So as you can see, early morning showers may be impacting the valley. This is going to push out by about, I'd say, 10, 11 o'clock, and then the sky is going to open up and we are looking for a bright sunny day. That's why numbers are going to start getting back to the basics. But as far as the shower activity, as you can see, again, the concentration really has been on the east side of the state and in higher elevations. And once again, that's where we're going to see the storms today, with no threat for storms. So no thunderstorms, no lightning, no outflow for the valley into western Arizona. The monsoon is kind of taking a breather before it's going to gear up once again by the early part of next week. And you can see it's kind of just a crescent moon right around the east side of the state, where we are going to get some pocketed light showers. Some of these cells could be dynamic, so we could get some lightning off in the distance. But as far as that outflow concern, it's really just not a major threat today. Meantime, it is going to be bright and sunny on this Friday, with daytime highs pushing up to 104 during the day. Clear and mild overnight. Westerly winds at about 5 miles an hour, dropping down to 84. Then tomorrow, it really looks like all the moisture, well, it's going to take a little bit of a holiday. We still have a very slight chance for higher elevations, but I mean, look at these numbers. Havasu getting back to the basics for, summertime. It's the unofficial end on Monday, but we don't do that here in the Valley of the Sun until October. So if you're going to be poolside tomorrow, here's the call. We should be hitting those triple digits by about the noon hour. And again, looking for daytime highs to get slightly above the normal range. Normal for us is 104. We're going to be about 106 to 107. In fact, through the Labor Day weekend, you can see pretty much everybody is going to be mostly clear and dry through Sunday. On Monday, that's when we're starting to see another surge of monsoon moisture. And for northern Arizona and into the rim country, we are going to see some of those spotty showers. So what does it look like for the high country? We've got about 50 to 60% coverage by the early part of next week. For the White Mountains, 40 to 60% coverage on Wednesday and Thursday. And with this amount of moisture in the arena, we certainly should see a drop or two here in Phoenix. Our chances are at about 20% starting on Monday and holding through Thursday. So temperature wise, after we warm up this weekend, numbers will start to come back down once again. As you can see, Flagstaff getting up to about 81 on Sunday. This is pretty normal temps for us, but then we start dropping as more moisture enters into the mix. And for the valley, we're really going to feel this. I mean, we've got daytime highs pushing up to 108, nowhere close to record territory. But then with the help of the cloud cover and that monsoon moisture move through, we are going to see our numbers fall below the normal range down to 100 by Thursday.
Coming up next, we're heading to the Golden State for forecasts from San Diego and Sacramento. And later, today marks 20 years since one of the most destructive natural disasters to ever hit the United States. We'll take a look back at Hurricane Katrina coming up later. After some much needed rain on Thursday, Southern California is headed into a drier, brighter, and warmer weekend. Vanessa Paz has the details from San Diego.
Well, happy Friday from San Diego, California. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. Here's what it looked like earlier from our Hotel Del Skycam. A very stark contrast in comparison to what we saw yesterday. Most of San Diego was submerged in shower activity, all due to remnants of Tropical Storm Juliet. Gorgeous name of the tropical storm, but unfortunately the weather it brought was not so gorgeous. We got some beneficial rain. Unfortunately, it was a drop in the bucket when it came to our water year numbers, but Mount Laguna was the big winner. They got about 3/4 of an inch. We got close to half an inch, not quite there. We were stuck in that range of 4/10 for Campo, as well as Lake Cuyamaca. Alpine, which sits a little closer inland, got about 1/4, and National City, closer to the coast, got about 1/10 of an inch or so. Here's what we can expect as we say adios to the work week and hello to the weekend. We will dry out today, and it will feel certainly a lot drier in terms of that humidity. It will be much less today and even more so into the weekend. We're looking at sunny and pleasant conditions as we head into a big holiday long weekend, as a lot of folks likely have, and we're looking at the return of monsoon and moisture returning next week. So here's what's on tap for today's highs across San Diego County. For us along the coastal areas, we'll be in the low 80s in downtown as well as Chula Vista. Vista will be quite warm in the high 80s. We'll touch into the low 90s for spots like El Cajon as well as Ramona. The daytime highs for our most populated neighborhoods along the coast and inland valleys will be anywhere between 2 to 4 degrees warmer than average, and will still be shy of that 30-year normal, but I assure you they'll play catch up for the mountains and desert areas. Overnight lows today will be another mild one, so let's say folks have plans, maybe they're going to dinner tonight, happy hour. It's going to be fairly mild, so you likely won't need a jacket, maybe something light, but it'll be comfortable regardless. Weak ridging will keep things warm this holiday weekend, and we do have the resurgence of monsoon and moisture come next week. So here's what it looks like in our future cast. Notice how I fast forward to about Tuesday. All that green on the maps here indicates some light showers. Most of it will be confined to our mountains and desert areas. It will become a little more widespread Wednesday afternoon. Some of the showers could spill into the valleys, but as of right now, it's looking like most of the activity will be in the mountain neighborhoods. Highs for Saturday, the start of Labor Day weekend, fairly nice. I mean, we're talking low 80s for Oceanside, Carlsbad, 80s in Del Mar. It will be picture perfect conditions. The inland areas, though, it will be warm. So if you're sensitive to the heat, susceptible to heat-related illnesses, maybe limit time outside and spend more time in the AC tomorrow, especially if you live across those inland valleys. The coastal areas will be in the low 80s all the way through next week. Minimal daily changes. In fact, we don't really see noticeable change until we get to Thursday and Friday. That's when things kind of drop off a bit in terms of daytime highs. However, during this period is when we'll have an uptick in that monsoon and moisture. So despite those daytime highs dropping off a little bit, it's going to feel a little muggy and uncomfortable outside. So most of the rain will hold off through the weekend, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's when we're looking at the resurgence of monsoon and moisture, not really impacting the coast and inland valleys, but it will be impacting the mountains and deserts. So notice how we have that thunderstorm icon Thursday and Friday. That's when we could have the chance for some showers. The mountain areas will be in the low 80s today, or tomorrow rather, into the high 80s, low 90s by the time we get to the latter part of the weekend. We'll push closer to that 105 range all the way through the weekend for the desert areas, warming up a little bit Monday and Tuesday, and then we're back in the low hundreds, 90s actually making a return by the time we hit next Friday.
Temperatures are gradually going up over the weekend, but the triple digits may return next week for Northern California. Here's Monica Woods with the forecast from Sacramento.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods looking at our regional headlines, and we're in the home stretch here, heading into our 3-day weekend. For the coast, we'll continue to see morning fog. Some of that clearing, though, as we head into the afternoon. Valley forecast, it is going to be above average for the foothills. We're going to see those clearing skies, and for the Sierra, less storms. So good news if you're headed up to the high country. Now, one thing I want to point out here is we have been following the Garnet Fire here in the Sierra National Forest. That really had some explosive growth over the past couple of days. days, going from, say, 9,000 acres to over 13,000 acres in a matter of about 24 hours. So smoke still really penetrating much of the Sierra National Forest. Some of that trying to make its way in through the valley. That mainly happens during the overnight hours when that smoke tends to settle into the lowest elevations. Just something to be aware of if you are making your travel plans. Even in the Yosemite area, you're going to see a little bit of that off in the distance. Our holiday weekend forecast, we've got a mix of sun and clouds. Highs staying in the 70s for San Francisco. Traveling through the valley, highs are going to be warmer. We're basically going to be in the 90s here. Many of us getting close to 100 for the foothills. We're in the 90s with sunny skies. And again, less storms in the Sierra. Nice to see that. We'll still see some clouds building. Highs will be in the 70s to near 80. So overall, what I'd say a pretty typical Labor Day forecast for us. Looking at our Labor Day climate, though, it could be so much hotter. In Sacramento, we hit our all-time record high back in 2022 at 114. And then we've had some cool Labor Days as well. 77 was the afternoon high back in 2000 on Labor Day. We've seen rain as well, 1/10 of an inch back in 2013. And this is kind of the turning point when we start to turn our attention more to the potential of some rain. If you're headed out to many of our beautiful reservoirs, Oroville, New Melones, New Bullards Bar, or even Lake Berryessa, things are looking pretty good here. But you'll also notice they're a little bit lower. This is the time of year that we start preparing for the rainy season and the inflow of more water into those reservoirs. And that's why we see kind of the curvature of that line as we start to see the release of water downstream. That's going to mean for some pretty cold rivers. Building a water year. This is what I'm talking about. We are just on the tail end of this. We've certainly seen our fair share of monsoon moisture coming in. But as we head into September, we're just closing the door on this water year that will end September 30th. I mentioned those river temperatures. Again, they're running in the mid 50s to right around 70. Lake Tahoe water temperature at 70. A little bit of clouds coming in from the coast here as we head into our Friday. Slight chance of those thunderstorms mainly around Yosemite. And then for our Saturday forecast, we'll see morning low cloudiness for the coast and then clearing and just a bit of cloud cover buildup, less in the way of showers and thunderstorms, though. Again, great timing on all of this. Highs in the 70s for Tahoe for our Friday, 80s and 90s down low for the foothills. And as we make our way southward here, just a slight chance of some isolated thunderstorms. I'm not going to put it in as a widespread event here. 80s up top for the mountains, down low. Watch out for that smoke, and highs in the 90s there. That fire burning in Fresno County. Central Coast, highs are in the 60s as we head toward San Luis Obispo, Morro Bay. We're in the 70s to near 80. Inland areas, again, very close to 100. 60s and 70s along the Bay Area coast. Inland areas starting to get quite warm, and along the northwest coast, it's chilly. 62 for Crescent City. Lots of low clouds and fog. Eureka at 62, as well as Fort Bragg. There's a 100, Red Bluff, Willows, 101. So like I said, we're starting to edge towards some summer heat here as we're unofficially ending the summer season. 90s to near 100 in the capital region. Looking around for the complete 3-day weekend, a buildup of cloud cover, but we're still going to pull back on the risk of thunderstorms in the Sierra. Sunny and warm in the foothills, and for the coast, a mix of sun and clouds, and highs stay in the 70s. Our Sacramento 3-day forecast, those highs peaking on Saturday, and then we start to see some cooler weather arrive by Labor Day, but only by about a degree or so. And then we're back to that summer heat again, highs near 100 by next Wednesday.
Still ahead after the break, we're headed up I-5 to Portland, Oregon, and then out east to Boise, Idaho. Happy Friday and welcome back to Weather Out West. It's time to head to Portland, Oregon, where it's going to be a pleasant Labor Day weekend. Rod Hill has what you need to know in today's forecast.
On a Friday in Portland, I'm meteorologist Rod Hill. We have ourselves a completely dry, including the coast, including inland areas, dry Labor Day weekend forecast. Today, tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday. You know, all week we've been tracking the spinning out in the Pacific, this low pressure center, and we were wondering, could that bring us some rain Saturday and Sunday? Well, yesterday we pulled the plug on the rain chance, and then today, the imagery looks even less impressive. This really looked impressive yesterday, but not so much today. And weather models seem to be giving us data that would suggest the likelihood of us staying dry, even at the coast for the weekend, is very high in the likely category. We'll get some cloudiness from this, but maybe not even that much cloudiness. What we will get, The low gets a little closer. It reinforces a return to a weather flow that comes off the Pacific water, so that should drop our temperatures down somewhat. If there is a concern this weekend, I mean, there is a concern, and that concern is really bad air quality over in Central Oregon. Holiday weekend, a lot of folks will be going over into the Bend, Sun River resort areas and other locations in Central Oregon. So from Oregon DEQ this morning, the orange and the red dots, that's Deschutes County around Sun River and Bend, on healthy air quality. Air quality is good in the valley, green dots, yellow across much of eastern Oregon, eastern Washington. This was a visible satellite snapshot taken yesterday afternoon. I apologize, the header on this banner is not correct. This was yesterday afternoon, and this is a visible smoke plume. That is what's being called the immigrant fire, and the problem is it's burning in the Cascades, so it's burning timber. So it's putting out a tremendous amount of smoke. And then the smaller dot here is our larger fire, but it's a grassland fire called the Flat Fire north of Bend, but it's putting out smoke still too, and the combo impact has really been impressive. Here's the way our smoke modeling picks up this wildfire smoke. So sometimes this can be overdone in terms of what you see, but typically where it's red, you're definitely getting very noticeable, visible wildfire haze, and in some cases thick enough that instead of it being sunny, it's just gray and white, the sky. So, and where you see the purple, that would be really thick, smoky, overcast conditions, which we're seeing on the ODOT cameras this morning. So that is a situation we're watching in Bend. And if anything, going into the weekend, this actually blows the smoke farther to the north. And it's interesting, at the updated models, did you see that? They actually pushed some noticeable increasing wildfire haze at times back into Portland. So we are monitoring that. You know, here on the west side of the Cascades and the Willamette Valley, it's been a heck of a summer in terms of we really haven't had much overly noticeable wildfire smoke. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Our coast is cloudy, and this is Chinook Winds Casino Resort in Lincoln City, and our coast did not clear out yesterday. Mount Hood beautifully clear today. Salem has been sunny right from the get-go. Portland has morning clouds, but expecting to get afternoon clearing. Our Futurecast models for the weekend don't show much. Dry weather today. Here comes some cloudiness from that Pacific low being pushed inland tomorrow, and then we brighten up somewhat going into Sunday. This is tomorrow afternoon, and then here's Sunday starting to brighten up. So that's really all we're looking at. Some passing clouds on Saturday. Other than that, mainly sunny for the Rose City. Not sure if the Oregon coast sees clearing this afternoon or not. Didn't really happen yesterday. Valley with sunshine, Salem 86, so certainly a warm to toasty afternoon. Could be upper 80s again in Portland and Vancouver. I think it's increasingly likely that we do stay beneath 90 degrees today in the forecast around Portland and our capital city. But hot out in the gorge, the Dow's 94, and in Central Oregon right around 90 with that wildfire smoke. There's your weekend. 88 today, the warmest of the bunch. Tomorrow, 83. Sunday, 84. Labor Day, Monday, 86. We are tracking a return to 90-degree temperatures.
Wildfire smoke continues to linger for our friends in Boise. Hector Mendoza tells us if it sticks around all the way through the weekend.
Hello, I'm Hector Mendoza here in Boise, Idaho, and it was an absolutely fantastic morning here in Friday as we have the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic that happens every year around this time, and it was perfect conditions. We saw those blue skies, and as that sun started to rise, we also saw those balloons start to rise early on through this morning, and we're expecting a lot more of those festivities to happen through the rest of the weekend, and things are looking pretty good. So that's what we're going to take a look at our headlines for today. We have quiet weather that goes all the way through Labor Day weekend. So for those folks that do have a longer weekend, we have some warm temperatures on tap, so it's going to look pretty good, as well as we have the last weekend of the float season for this weekend as it ends on Monday. So take advantage of that. But as we look at some of the mornings here from today into Saturday, we'll continue with some of the smoky skies, and then we're going to have some isolated thunderstorms for Friday, and then that starts to make its way on out as we head closer into the weekend. And we're going to see this system right here, the high pressure system, that's going to amplify and bring bring us those warm temperatures in through today and the next couple of days that possibly extends on in through the rest of the week for next week. But we do also paying attention to a system that could come in to bring us a chance for some showers that come along later on into next week. Now for Friday, we could see some isolated storms there in the Idaho-Oregon border, closer to the west central mountains. So that's a possibility for the afternoon and into the evening. But for the most part, we stay dry through the Treasure and Magic Valleys. But with some of the westerly winds that we're going to be seeing into Friday and Saturday, we are going to continue to see these hazy conditions as we continue on in through the next couple of days as we look at our Skycam 7 camera. And as we fast forward here, our surface smoke future cast, we'll see that through Saturday, that smoke will continue to make its way on through. But as those winds change to more southerly winds, we'll start to see that clear out and expect to see Sunday with a little bit less of those hazy conditions. But still, we maintain ourselves and hover around this weekend in that yellow or moderate category of air quality. And for those folks that are very sensitive to the air particulates there, try to limit your time outdoors as you head on out through the morning and into the afternoon. But as we look at the next couple of days, we are going to see those temperatures climb up into the low 90s, so above average as normally. We're into those upper 80s around this time of the year, but temperatures aren't really going to change too much after that warm up that comes along in through Saturday, and we'll continue that way all the way in through the rest of next week. But as we look at this weekend, we are comparing it to last weekend as we saw the mid to low 90s. Temperatures were a little warmer there as we look there onto August 23rd and 24th, but not looking too bad as we'll continue with that sunshine. Temperatures will be into the 90s and pretty comfortable waking up into the mornings, as you might need a light jacket early on as those temperatures will stay into those low 60s. But as we look on ahead to the next 7 days here in the mountains, we'll see that warm up coming along, a bit of a cool down before we see more warm temperatures come along for Tuesday and Wednesday, with some of those cloudier skies that could come along towards the end of the week. As we look at Twin Falls, hazy conditions as well there for the Magic Valley as we look at those temperatures climbing up into the mid 80s, into the upper 80s there for Sunday and Monday, just in time for Labor Day. And then we're going to see a lot more of that sunshine that sticks around with temperatures into the mid 80s all the way through Thursday. And that's exactly what we're expecting here in the Boise area and other spots here in the Treasure Valley, as we have that smoke as we've seen in some of those cameras early on for today. We'll continue with those conditions there for Saturday afternoon. And as those winds start to shift, we'll see a little bit more of that sunshine, no clouds in sight, and we're not anticipating any sort of moisture or rain that comes along as we head on into Monday. And then those temperatures will start to climb up into those low 90s, and we are going to continue to see the low 90s Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday. Could see a chance of some showers, but for now things are looking pretty good and warm and sunny as we head on towards the end of next week.
After a quick break, we're headed up to Seattle and Spokane, Washington. Sunshine and hot temperatures are on tap in eastern Washington today, but next week looks even hotter. Michelle Boss has the forecast from Spokane.
I'm meteorologist Michelle Boss in Spokane. We are talking about the potential for another heat wave coming up over the next couple of days. We just got over a heat wave last week where we had 4 consecutive days in the 90s. Got a little bit of a reprieve yesterday with a high of 80, but it looks like things are going to be heating up just in time for the holiday weekend. And once we get that hot weather back into the region, it looks like it's going to be sticking around for a while. So the sunshine and warmer temperatures are expected to return today. As I mentioned, yesterday's high was 80 degrees. I think we're going to be in the upper 80s today. We had a little bit more cloud cover yesterday. Should have plenty of sunshine today, and then hot and dry for the entire holiday weekend. And it looks like we are headed back up into the 90s. And as I mentioned, with another extended heat wave on the way, that could leave us into the 90s not only through the entire holiday weekend, but for much of the next week as well. Perfect for lake weather, though. If you want to head out to any body of water, the weather is going to be great for that, especially today out at Lake Coeur d'Alene, looking at partly cloudy skies, high temperatures in the upper 80s to near 90 degrees. And this time of year, the water temperatures are pretty mild, a little bit more comfortable than earlier in the season. Water temperatures are in the upper 60s. Looking at light winds, if you can't get out to the lake today, the rest of the weekend is going to be pretty hot and dry as well. So you don't have to just pick one of the days. You can pick any day over the holiday weekend. If you're headed to a football game, Beautiful weather for that. It is going to be a warm day, but fortunately, the game is an evening game. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. So as the game starts, we're looking at sunny skies and temperatures in the lower 80s. Sunsets around 7:30-ish, so we will have sunny skies when the game starts. Clear skies by fourth quarter, temperatures in the lower 70s. So we don't have to endure the heat of the day, but it is going to be a relatively mild evening. So pretty comfortable out there to be playing football or just to be watching the game. All right, here's a look at the temperature trend over the next 7 days. Check out how warm it is expected to be. Our average high temperature starts out at 80, but by the time we get into early September, so that's the end of next week, we are going to be seeing average highs in the upper 70s. And as you can see, the forecast is much warmer than that. In fact, 88 degrees today will be the coolest out of the next 7. We're going to get up into the 90s, and it looks like middle 90s for several days in a row. Our last heat wave was 4 consecutive days in the 90s, and we may beat that. In fact, the overall 8 to 14-day temperature outlook looks for above average temperatures for the entire western U.S., though it looks like they're going to get a little bit of a break in the central and eastern U.S. Average temperatures are again in the low 80s, so we're looking at temperatures 10 to 15 degrees above average. As far as precipitation, it has been a very dry August with only 0.06 of an inch of rainfall. We normally see about half an inch. The 8 to 14-day precipitation outlook does call for a chance of above average precipitation, but September is the third driest month. We usually see about 0.6 of an inch of rain for the entire month. So even if we saw more than that, it's still relatively dry. All right, I was talking about hot temperatures. How does that compare to what we normally see during the summer? We normally see an average of 23 days of temperatures at 90 or above in Spokane. We've had 20 so far this year. No temperatures at 100 or above. Last year, we had 8 days of 100-degree plus temperatures. Our hottest temperature this year so far has been 97. We're going to be pretty close next week. Those computer models are talking about some pretty toasty temperatures that could be approaching the upper 90s. All right, if you need to get your car washed, you don't have to worry about any rain because I don't see any of that in the forecast for next week and maybe even for the next 6 or 7 days. Future Tracker is showing the potential for a few mountain thunderstorms this afternoon. Those should be out of the way by this evening. Clear skies for tonight. Looks like mostly sunny skies for Saturday and then partly cloudy skies for Sunday. Here's a look at the regional temperature forecast. We're looking at highs in the upper 80s and lower 90s across central Washington, upper 80s in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, and then low to mid 80s in Libby and Bonners Ferry, into the 90s in Lewiston this afternoon. Here's a look at the extended forecast. Hot, hot, hot and dry. Upper 80s today, 90s for the holiday weekend and beyond.
Seattle is AAA's #1 top travel destination for Labor Day, and you'll see why. The forecast is looking great for vacations and staycations. Rich Marriott has all the details.
Hi, I'm King 5 meteorologist Rich Marriott, and once again we've made it to Friday, fortunately, and it's Labor Day weekend. And actually, unlike many Labor Day weekends, we're not going to have to explain why the rain is coming over the holiday weekend, because really it's not happening this time. We have a pretty good looking holiday weekend forecast, and starting off really good there in Bellingham, where they have some sunshine this morning starting off the day. Can see a little bit of haze in the air, and we do have some smoke haze that's going to be around today around much of the area, not really having a big impact on the air quality, but definitely impacts the beauty of the sky. It takes a lot of the blue out of it. And much of Puget Sound right now, mid-morning on Friday, is still socked in. We still have the clouds around, but there's breaks in the overcast, and we'll be seeing more sunshine as we head towards this afternoon. It should turn partly sunny just about everywhere as we head into the afternoon, even though it's a little gray to start the day. And if we check our first alert 7-day forecast, the great news is it looks good for the Labor Day weekend. There might be a couple of sprinkles maybe on Sunday, primarily up to the north of Seattle, but it's not really going to amount to anything, just a little passing system. Otherwise, it's a really good Labor Day weekend, and that good weather continues all the way into the following weekend. So that doesn't often happen around Labor Day, at least it seems that way. Checking the satellite image, what's going on? You see this big upper level low sitting off the coast, just kind of spinning out there. That is going to be gradually drifting towards the coast over the next couple of days, and then Saturday night into Sunday, it's just going to brush by us as it turns and then starts to drift back off the coast again as we head into the week next week. week as high pressure begins to build in from the east once again, kind of like what we had about a week ago. The good news is it doesn't build in as strongly, so we won't be looking at any 90s. We may be looking at some mid 80s towards the end of next week, but that's as warm as it should get. So that's good news. And with this system, just a few sprinkles is all that's going to be affecting the Labor Day weekend. So that's a pretty nice outcome. Checking the smoke forecast, you can see at the surface, we do have quite a bit of smoke around during the day today. It's going to be gradually improving a bit as we head towards tomorrow. And the effect again today is not all that much in terms of our air quality. You can see a few stations go into the moderate range, just barely into the moderate range in the Central Sound. Everybody else stays in the good range. And as we head towards tomorrow, it looks like just about everybody ends up in the good range in terms of air quality, as we should see that smoke thin out a little bit as we get into the weekend. Take a look at the big game tomorrow night, starting off the college football season for the Huskies. We're going to be looking at Husky Stadium for tailgating, say around 6 o'clock tomorrow. Should see temperatures in the mid to upper 70s with partly sunny skies. Should be nice to be out there at Husky Stadium. At kickoff time at 8 o'clock, should be partly cloudy, temperatures in the mid 70s, and it wraps up probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock. We'll be looking for temperatures in the upper 60s. So a really nice night for football out at Husky Stadium. Checking the holiday weekend forecast. If you're headed out towards the Washington coast, a lot of clouds around tomorrow. And then as we head towards Sunday, should see a little bit more clearing in the afternoon and actually see even more sunshine on Monday. Temperatures finally getting up to the upper 60s by the end of the holiday weekend. If you're going to be hanging around the Puget Sound, it's a great place to spend the holiday weekend because we've got partly sunny skies Saturday. Sunday, we have that chance of a few sprinkles, but that should be primarily north of Seattle again. And then as we head towards Labor Day itself, it looks like we'll see more sunshine. Those temperatures mostly in the mid upper 70s over Saturday and Sunday, but warming up to around 80 degrees to wrap up the holiday weekend. Checking the forecast, if you're headed up the Cascades to do some hiking, and actually pretty much for the Olympics as well, the highway pass levels, you might see a little fog in the mornings, but it should clear out to some sunshine. We'll be looking for partly sunny skies on Saturday afternoon, Sunday, and on into Monday. Temperatures for Saturday and Sunday mostly in the upper 70s, but getting a little bit warmer on Monday into the low to mid 80s. And if you're headed up towards the San Juans, we're going to be looking for partly sunny holiday weekend. Temperatures getting up around 70 degrees on Sunday, so a nice time to be up in the islands. And if you're headed up to Vancouver, British Columbia, they're going to be looking at sunshine with temperatures running mostly in the mid 70s. And then overall, as we head into next week, we're going to be looking for more sunshine and warming temperatures. Should peak out in the upper 70s and low to some mid 80s by the end of the week, but that's as warm as we get as we head towards that first full weekend in September. We'll see those highs dropping back to the mid 70s with partly sunny skies.
Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast 20 years ago today. After the break, we take a look back at the storm's devastation and how recovery has taken shape over the past 2 decades. Today marks 20 years since one of the most destructive natural disasters to ever hit the United States made landfall in Louisiana in 2005, killing more than 1,400 people and destroying New Orleans. Heavy rain triggered catastrophic flooding, and the storm surge caused levees to fail in the city. Widespread flooding and damage stretched across the coastline to Florida, taking years, decades to repair it all. Katrina is still the costliest natural disaster in the U.S. history, totaling more than $200 billion in damage. Let's take a look back at the evolution of Katrina. From the time it developed over the Bahamas to the time it made landfall, it was only a matter of a couple of days. Over the Bahamas, it became a tropical depression, and then it took aim to South Florida, and by August 25th, it made its first landfall near Miami, barely as a Category 1 hurricane, near 80-mile-per-hour winds. Then, a couple of hours after it moved offshore and then passing Key West and in the Gulf, it became a Cat 1, again, 75-mile-per-hour winds, to a Cat 3, rapidly intensifying with winds of 115 miles per hour. Then we get to August 28th, and this is when it rapidly intensifies again as it starts to take aim to the northern Gulf Coast. 15 mile per hour winds to 165 mile per hour winds in less than 12 hours. And then it peaked at 175 miles per hour winds. Thankfully, it weakened as it neared landfall, but on August 29th, 20 years ago at 6 a.m., it made its second landfall as a Cat 3 in southeastern Louisiana, just near Grand Isle, if you're familiar over there. Then at 9:45, it made its third and final landfall near the Louisiana-Mississippi border as a Cat 3 hurricane. And so a lot of people remember this, of course, and I wanted to share this with you. This is the bulletin from the National Weather Service in New Orleans, released the morning before it made landfall. These words are bone-chilling. And quote, a most powerful hurricane with unprecedented strength, most of the area uninhabitable for weeks, perhaps longer. At least one half of well-constructed homes will have roof and wall failure. Persons, pets, and livestock exposed to winds will face certain death if struck. Water shortages will make human suffering incredible by modern standards. And unfortunately, that came to fruition. So Katrina was one of the strongest hurricanes to strike the United States when it comes to pressure, not wind speeds. Katrina's minimum central pressure was 920 millibars at landfall. The strongest was the Labor Day hurricane to strike Florida in 1932. And according to the National Weather Service, 80% of New Orleans was underwater by August 31st. And the peak storm surge recorded in Louisiana was around 14 feet. But the Mississippi Gulf Coast felt the brunt of Katrina's impacts, including storm surge over 25 feet. And so that's why coming up after the break, we're headed to the Mississippi Gulf Coast to see how one of the locations hit rebuild itself 20 years later after Katrina's devastation. So when we think about Hurricane Katrina, of course, we think about Louisiana. That comes to mind first, right? Well, the Mississippi Gulf Coast was in its direct path, receiving the brunt of it. In Biloxi, Mississippi, Katrina wasn't just a storm. It was a wall of water that swallowed neighborhoods and erased decades of progress. Louisiana's WWL4, Mike McDaniel, takes us back to the heart of that destruction and explains how the coast has been recovering one wave at a time.
In the early hours of August 29, 2005, Biloxi, Mississippi woke up to a nightmare.
They had 28 feet of water.
Hurricane Katrina wasn't just a storm, it was a wall of water.
28 feet of water is a lot of water.
Katrina erased what generations had built, the coast's heartbeat, its homes, businesses, and casinos. Much of it wiped away in hours.
It was so long. The event was so long. This was from 6 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, and the massive amount of water and you know the sustained winds that took so long.
This wasn't just wind and rain. This was the Gulf rising up. Entire neighborhoods vanished, and when the water finally receded,
look at the devastation.
You can see those were all buildings. There's nothing left.
It doesn't reveal itself till you get out.
Biloxi's mayor, Andrew Fofo Gillich, was elected in 2015. He says destruction still echoes along the Mississippi coast and in every corner of his city's recovery.
We've had a $344 million Katrina recovery infrastructure where it built deep sewer, storm drain, water and sewer.
Tourism, once Biloxi's backbone, fell silent. Gillich says nearly 19,000 jobs tied to casinos disappeared.
Hotels and small craft harbors and boats and entertainment, it was all here, and then almost overnight wiped out.
Just off Highway 90 in the Biloxi Town Green stands a solemn reminder of what else the storm took.
This is sort of a remembrance of some of the people that lost their lives here.
The Katrina Memorial is etched with the names of those who died and those still missing.
Just to give you an idea of how high the water got at this spot here in Biloxi, that red marker up there, that's Hurricane Katrina, when storm waters got 22 feet above sea level. In fact, there were waves reported to be at least 10 feet higher than that. Now the marker below it, the light blue, that's Hurricane Camille, when storm surge got to 19.5 feet. That was in 1969.
Grief and recovery haven't been easy.
I'll scan that ticket for you.
But in 2020, on the 15th anniversary of the storm,
All right, you guys have a wonderful visit.
something new opened down the highway in Gulfport, a shimmering sign of life, the Mississippi Aquarium.
We wanted to show the significance of opening a project like this. So we picked the 15th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina to really kind of showcase where the Gulf Coast was and where we're going. And this is just another example of the resiliency of the people on the Gulf Coast.
Built on 3 pillars, education, conservation, and community, the aquarium replaced the marine life oceanarium that was destroyed by the storm. It was a nostalgic place where generations connected their lives to the water.
After Katrina, it was one of those things that the coast wanted to bring back.
The aquarium didn't just restore a piece of coastal identity, it became a symbol of something more: rebirth.
We've been able to really bring the community together behind a project that nobody thought was going to happen.
The $103 million project helped reignite local development all along the coast.
It's small things like coffee shops and hotels and lots of different restaurants that have popped up because we're able to attract 1 million people in 5 years.
Katrina's lessons live inside the design.
What happened during Katrina was thought about. So the elevation that we're standing at, the design of the buildings, evacuation plans were all built into the original concept of the aquarium.
Next door, a building damaged by Katrina will soon open as a hotel, part of the ripple effect.
We were the catalyst to a lot of different projects.
Katrina changed everything. It took lives, homes, history, and nearly erased parts of the Mississippi coast. It also revealed something deeper.
Everything's changed.
Building codes have tightened, construction has been slow and steady, but impacts are still here. They're seen in areas that never rebuilt, memories of loved ones lost, and the determination for communities to continue with recovery.
We never want another Katrina to happen, but we want to be prepared for anything Mother Nature has to throw at us.
From near ruin, the Mississippi coast has found its rhythm again, and in the heart of it all, a place where sea life and human resilience swim side by side. Mike McDaniel, WWL, Louisiana.
WWL out of New Orleans will have a 1-hour special, Katrina, the Storm That Changed Us. They'll take you to Louisiana to honor the lives lost and reflect on the progress made since then. You can stream that for free starting tonight on your Local Plus app. We wanted to thank you so much for joining us on Weather Out West today. I'm Ashley Ruiz, and we again want to thank you so much for being with us, and we hope you have a happy and safe Labor Day weekend. And remember, you can always join us on Monday for our next Weather Out West.